everybody doing? You guys made it. That's why we took your money up front, right? Who here has heard this lecture before? The root cause. Good. Listen, laugh at the joke still. Here are some 2012 statistics. They're worse in 2015 as we become more technologically advanced. Over 117 million people have at least one chronic disease. A fourth of adults have 2 or more chronic diseases. And I'm not going to go into all of them because of the time, but we have a real problem on our hands. How many people live in the United States of America on the books? 300 million. How many illegal? About, do you know? You look like you know. So at 300 plus million, so we're looking at almost half of our population with chronic disease. And there is a large portion that are children, so just give them time to hit 18 and we'll see what happens. What is the problem? Why is chronic disease on the rise? Well, as medicine continues to branch out and become more specialized, reimbursement continues to decrease as well. So what happens? You have different specialists, and when we refer to that specialist, the specialist thinks if he doesn't give you a medication, then he didn't really do anything for you. So the specialist is going to put you on a medicine, the other specialist is going to put you on a medicine, and then we end up with multiple medicines, sometimes interacting. Also, reimbursement is better if you put somebody on a medicine. So if I see you, and I've had this happen before, where I will have somebody on what's called an ACE inhibitor, which is a blood pressure medicine. And send them to the cardiologist just to double check, and then the cardiologist will stop that medicine and then start another ACE inhibitor. It does the same thing, it just has a different name on it. And what happened, I could never figure it out until I realized, wait a minute, if you stop and start a medicine, that's a level 4 visit. As reimbursement is decreasing, we're having to see more and more people for less and less time. And doctors continue as they continue to make up for it, I think, does anybody know what the average doctor's visit is? How long does that average doctor's visit last? 7 minutes. Thank you. Pharmaceutical companies spend a lot of money on research as well. How much does it cost to take a drug from initial studies to get FDA approval? How much money? 10 million? 250 million? Who else? 500? It's $1 to $1.8 billion. And if you get a drug, if you spend $1 to $1.8 billion getting FDA approval, you're going to want to put everybody on that drug. Some of the things you'll see the panelists here, the functional medicine providers here like doing is genetic testing. We want to know genetically how people are different. You could find out genetically if someone will do good with a drug or not, but are people doing it? No. Are pharmaceutical companies encouraging it? No. Because if they encourage that, then guess what's going to happen? There's going to be less people getting that drug. How are they going to make their $1.8 billion? Have a heart, guys. So, what is the problem? It boils down to money. And actually, if we go down to it, we don't really have time for that. If you look at the way that they produce our food, and if you look at the way our environment is being polluted, it's all about money. It's all about who's paying enough money to the right lobbies to stay in power so they can turn a blind eye. Anyway, so the only way that a pharmaceutical company can get their money back is if they can get something that they can patent. There is a rule. You can't patent a natural substance. So I could do a study that shows that CoQ10 will decrease migraines, and then someone else will take that study and sell a different CoQ10. So I go through the study and FDA approval, and then someone else comes in and benefits. So that's one of the issues that we have. You can patent a dose. You could say, hey, 50 milligram dose we're going to patent. You can't patent the actual natural substance. So if you can't patent a natural substance, now we need people that are just trying to find out the right thing to do that might not necessarily have $1.8 billion to spend on it. So functional medicine, what is functional medicine? Raise your hand if you've heard of functional medicine. That's the right crowd. The rest of you, I'm thinking you just didn't hear the question. So, there are 7 underlying imbalances that cause all disease. This is not something new. Throughout time, throughout history, if you look at Chinese medicine and Middle Eastern medicine, there was always some sort of an imbalance and you had to rebalance the system. But what ended up happening, the only imbalance that people have are a Xanax imbalance and a Prozac imbalance and a Lipitor imbalance. We forgot the whole science behind the root that's causing disease. So one imbalance, and I'll go over these imbalances today, one imbalance can lead to another imbalance, which could lead to another imbalance. So we have to find out what the primary imbalance is. And really, we need to stop practicing acute medicine, and we need to practice a more holistic approach. And that's really what functional medicine is trying to do. Where is current modern medicine doing its best? For acute medicine, for people that are sick immediately. I got together with my brothers, and we have an urgent care. Is that in conflict with functional medicine? No, because if you're having an asthma attack, if I'm having an asthma attack and I can't breathe, if you start waving eucalyptus oil in my face, I'll probably die, or I'll probably throw something at you, right? So when you're acutely sick, we do really well. The problem is we're treating people that have a chronic condition, let's say high cholesterol or high blood pressure, as if it's an acute disease. Yeah, we want to get that blood pressure down, or yeah, let's get that cholesterol down. And as we drive that cholesterol down, maybe the risk of heart attacks will decrease a little bit, but what they don't tell you is you may end up with Alzheimer's disease, and you may end up with nerve damage. So I'm not saying that I don't use these medicines. I do. We all do. But the amount we use compared to the amount the other practitioners, it's just a knee-jerk reaction. Cholesterol high, take this drug. And that's it. And there's more to the story. So we also, with functional medicine, we want to get to the root cause of disease. Some people may have high cholesterol because, are there more women or men in this audience? Because their husbands just keep giving them, you guys lost, sorry. Because their husband is giving them a hard time. And that causes cholesterol to go up because your body needs to make cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Some people, their cholesterol may be going up because they're eating pro-inflammatory foods that cause inflammation. Some people, their cholesterol may be high and it's not even a problem because it's not the bad cholesterol, the LDL that is the really tiny one that's a problem. It's the big fluffy one. And everyone is going to be looked at the same and everybody is treated the same. So, what do we need? Let's go into those imbalances. We have a template. We have a way that we look at things, a way that we look at patients to try to figure out what is going on. Because remember, how many underlying imbalances are there? 7. How many heavens are there? 7. All right, so
first thing is, what do you need to live? You need the nutrients, you need oxygen, and you need water, right? So how do we get them in our system? Eating is a way, but we call it assimilation. So you can assimilate. How do you get those nutrients that we need to keep us alive into our body? Is called assimilation. We can get it through our skin. Be careful what you put on your skin. You get some so-called natural product that may have hormones and stuff in them, and start putting it on your skin, and guess what will happen? It'll go into your bloodstream. If you don't believe me, when someone's having a heart attack, at the ER, they can put a paste on your chest, a nitroglycerin paste that immediately goes into your bloodstream and opens up your blood vessel. So be careful what you put on your skin. Also, through your lungs, what are you breathing? Are you breathing polluted air? Do you have mold in your house? Are you spraying air fresheners? Now,
It all depends on how bad it is after your husband goes to the bathroom. We may be able to excuse some, but there are natural. Talk to Nuris. She'll give you all the natural remedies. I'm not saying anything about her husband. She just knows about that stuff. She knows about the product. It's not like she has life experience. All right, so GI tract, which you said eating. You get it through the GI tract, and the biggest way that we assimilate is through the GI tract. So digestion and absorption is needed. You have to bring the food in, so you have to eat the right foods. Your body has to be able to break it down, and then you have to be able to absorb it into your system. So when you sit down to eat, guess what? Your saliva will secrete an enzyme that will help you break down carbohydrates, that will help you digest your food. So if you just eat in front of TV, or if you just eat really fast and not think about it, guess what? You're not going to be able to digest your food properly. So who here says a prayer before they eat? All right, who here should be saying a prayer before they eat, right? If you don't have a prayer, just say, "Oh Lord," even if you don't believe in God, just make them up, it's better for you. "Oh Lord, thank you for sending me to the Integrative and Holistic Health Summit. Amen." And then what happens is, then your body will start producing those enzymes that you'll be able to digest your food better. Hydrochloric acid is released so that you can break down protein. If you can't break down your protein, you're in trouble. You will end up with multiple drugs that we can put you on. It also helps kill bacteria. So what medication blocks acid in the stomach? Nexium, like the acid blockers, right? So the acid blockers are just blocking acid and you have no acid in your stomach. But are we supposed to have acid in our stomach? Yeah, so if you indefinitely block acid from going into your stomach, what do you think is going to happen? Bad stuff. You won't be able to break down protein. If you can't break down protein, you don't get your amino acids. If you don't get your amino acids, you're not going to get 5-HTP or tryptophan that becomes 5-HTP that becomes serotonin. If your serotonin is low, you get depressed. And then if you don't have serotonin, you can't make melatonin. If you can't make melatonin, you can't sleep. And then if you can't make melatonin in your gut, you get reflux. So you take more acid blocker, right? And then if you can't sleep and you don't have enough melatonin, your immune system gets thrown off. And that's just one. If you don't have enough tyrosine, you can't make thyroid hormone. So your energy will go low. Go to Dr. Hall, he'll hook you up. If you don't make enough, if you don't have enough tyrosine, you can't make dopamine, the happy hormone. So if your spouse is really cranky, they just might not be digesting their protein. Leave them alone. So the other thing is, you can't break down your minerals. If you don't get your minerals, guess what are going to happen to your bones? Not good things. They're going to get softer. So, digestion and absorption is one of the main ways of assimilation. Raise your hand if you have reflux. Raise your hand if you're on a reflux medication. Raise your hand if you've been on a reflux medication for over a year. All right. Unless your doctor told you you have Barrett's esophagus, then we're stuck. We'll work with you. There should be always a way that you should always be trying to get off of it. Because there's a beautiful thing about the acid blockers for the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, they invented this amazing, amazing drug that gets you hooked. Raise your hand if you think cocaine is addictive. How do you know? Look at all these people. Are you guys high? So, guess what? These acid blockers are more addictive because you take the acid blocker, the body says, "Oh shoot, I should be having some acid." So what does the body end up doing? It ends up trying to make acid. It increases your gastrin levels. And then you can't make acid because your gastrin levels, or because you took the drug and it's blocked. So gastrin goes higher and higher and higher, and then you stop the acid blocker, and it gets worse than when you first started. And then you go back on the acid blocker, and you're hooked, and now they're over the counter because now they're safe, right? They weren't safe when they had a patent on it and they were trying to make a boatload of money. Now all of a sudden the patent is gone. We need to get FDA approval this is so safe it should be over the counter. So anyway, Don't try to stop it on your own. Get with an integrative or functional doctor or provider and let them help you come off of it in a natural way. So, let's move on system-wise. Good bacteria. We are not getting the same good bacteria that we used to get in our diet. And what happens? It messes with our immune system. It messes with our digestion. We end up with food allergies. Do you know, raise your hand if you know what gluten is. And raise your hand if you've been on some sort of a gluten-free diet. Do you know there's a combination of good bacteria that actually digests gluten? That doesn't mean if you have the problem you can go on it. But guess what? If you don't have enough good bacteria, someone that wouldn't have had a gluten problem can end up with a gluten problem, and a dairy problem, and a soy problem, and an egg problem, and all these problems because they don't have the right bacteria in their colon. And another very interesting thing to show you how the body is fully connected. Who's heard of restless leg syndrome? Okay. Who's heard of restless wife syndrome? Okay. Both are caused, well, no, I'm not. You covered your face when you raised your hand, so you were waiting for it. Restless leg syndrome is caused, in a lot of cases, by too much bad bacteria in the wrong place, and sometimes good bacteria in the wrong place. It makes a toxin that causes restless leg. If you don't believe me, there are studies that back this up. This isn't some funky hippie thing that I'm saying. And if you don't have good probiotic, you get inflammation. Inflammation could be causing your spouse to have depression and irritability. So give her good bacteria. And give her, I said her. I'm going to get in trouble. All right, let's move on. So, you need good bacteria. You also need a nice lining of the gut. And what happens is if your gut gets inflamed, I don't know if you guys can see the mouse here, you get what's called a leaky gut, and large particles that shouldn't be leaking into the system leak into the system. That's called, if you say leaky gut to a conventional doctor, do not quote my name, because they're going to say that's quackery. Don't even. What you have to say is increased intestinal permeability, because there is a such thing called increased intestinal permeability. That's a very fancy way of saying leaky gut. But if you say leaky gut, write it down. Or just don't mention my name when you talk to about these crazy theories. Anyway, so I do give a lecture called Plug Up Your Leaky Gut. So this slide is kind of important. I'm going to spend a little more time with the gut because if you look throughout history, throughout the healing science, the gut is where it's all at. That's where the gut is gateway to disease. So if you look here at the slide, these things can lead to leaky gut. Or what is leaky gut? What's the increased intestinal permeability? Good job, guys. Can you guys say that? Okay. I'm going to say it, and you guys say it after me. Increased intestinal permeability. That was very nice if you were trying to put me to sleep. Let's try one more time. Increased intestinal permeability. Did you pass? Okay, good. That was good. I could hear you. All right, so what causes increased intestinal permeability? You can have poor dietary choices, stress, infections, lectins. Lectins are found in legumes, and some people, they can cause leaky gut in. Some people don't have a problem with them. That doesn't mean don't walk out of here and say, Dr. E said that beans are bad. Well, most women that are married think beans are bad because they know what happens when their husband eats beans. But not for everybody. But some people need to avoid the lectins. And then any systemic disease can cause a problem with that gut barrier. And low stomach acid as well. So if you take an acid blocker, and some people just don't make enough acid, and also exposure to toxins. And we'll talk about the toxin thing in a minute. But what does that lead to? Food allergies, malnutrition, problems with your flora, the good bacteria, molecular mimicry, where your body starts attacking things that it shouldn't be attacking in the body. Your body will try to attack gluten, and it'll turn around and attack your thyroid gland, or turn around and attack your pancreas. And toxic overload. And then it all can lead to systemic disease. So, once those nutrients are in your body, what has to happen? What does the body have to do? Assimilate was the first one. You have to assimilate it, and then you have to do what? Because this is the second balance. Transport. You have to move it. Once it's in the system, you have to move it to where it needs to move to. And actually, I talked about leaky gut. There's a such thing called leaky brain, where now things are leaking that aren't supposed to go into your brain, go into your brain. Every time someone has a migraine, they have a transient leakiness. So we want to try to get to the root cause of migraine. And actually, functional medicine does really good with migraines. We want to get to the root cause to stop that over and over and over leaky brain thing. So anyway, nutrients are in, you have to transport them. So your carbohydrates need to be broken down into glucose, protein into amino acids, vitamins and minerals you get from your food. Cholesterol, if you don't have cholesterol, you die, because you need cholesterol to make your hormones. So anybody that says cholesterol is bad, tell them, smile and nod your head and feel bad for them. And then phytonutrients. This is one thing that unfortunately a lot of dietitians just forget about. They're so focused on protein and carbohydrate and fat, which are your macronutrients, they forget about your micronutrients. So what ends up happening? They will not focus on the phytonutrients. The phytonutrients are healing properties that are in our fruits and vegetables and some meats. So phytonutrients are what give the color to our fruits and vegetables. So I want you to eat different colors. Red will do something for you, and then blue, like blueberry, will do something for you. Try to get a variety, because each of them has healing properties. And if you don't want any healing effect on them, no problem. Just heat them up in the microwave for 1 minute, and you'll get none of that. You can gain weight from microwave food, but it can kill off these phytonutrients. And then, like I said, the fats and cholesterol. So cholesterol, most of those things are water soluble, and they go into your bloodstream, and your body can carry it. And with a good circulatory system and a good lymph system and cerebrospinal fluid system, what ends up happening? Your body can bring it where it needs to get to. But if you have a problem with those systems, which could be the imbalance, maybe it's not you're not getting enough nutrients, you can't bring it. You can't bring it to where it needs to get to. Cholesterol and fats are fat soluble. What happens if you take a cup of water and pour oil in it? It rises, it separates. So our body makes not good and bad protein. They make proteins that are like little cars and trucks that will actually take in that cholesterol, take in that fat so it can move it where it needs to go to. That's why when someone tells me LDL is bad, which is bad cholesterol, we're so used to just saying bad cholesterol, then I say, is brain function bad? Because you need LDL to bring cholesterol to your brain. And you need the good cholesterol, HDL, to pull it out and to bring it back to the liver. So anyway, in order for it to be transported, what do you need? Structure, chaos, or nothing? Tough. Structure. Good job. You guys are bright, man. You guys are bright. That's why you're here. So you need a good structure. Because if you can't hold up, if your blood vessels, if you have from years and years and years, your blood vessels are clogged up, how well do you think that's going to carry things? So you also need good structure when it comes to things like osteoarthritis and things like that. Or osteopenia or porosis, thin bones, the structure is thrown off. So osteoarthritis, like I mentioned, there's a problem with the structure of your joint and cartilage. Osteoporosis is a problem with the structure of the bones. An interesting thing, that leaky gut is a structure problem too. What's leaky gut called? Everyone. It's okay. That's good. But if the next speaker gets up and you guys wake up, I'm going to be really upset. All right. So leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability is a problem with the structure. Those cells are supposed to be really tight. They're not supposed to let just anything in. And now people are having large flecks of poop going into their blood. Do you think that's good for you? No. So once again, the plug up your leaky gut is a lecture I give. So as the structure is holding up, what else do you need to hold up the structure? I'll give you a hint. It's not the solar system. You protect it through the immune system. What does the immune system do, guys? Two things. Someone said protection, which is defense, and repair. If the immune system goes off, and there's definitely a food and exercise and lifestyle immune system connection, if that is off, then guess what? It's going to throw everything off. So, a defense and repair. If you have a problem with defense where you can't defend, then what happens? You get autoimmune, or you're over-defending. You're attacking things you're not supposed to. You get autoimmune problems, you get sick, you can get allergies. And if you have a problem with repair, you get osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, healing problems. It's amazing how everything's interconnected, and that's why I can't just, as a provider, say, oh, you have a headache, take this pill. Everything is interconnected, and I think that's what you're going to see over and over and over. So, you also need communication, which is your hormones and your phytonutrients. Hormones are the way your body communicates, so you can have your thyroid off, you can have your adrenal glands off, you can have, you might not be getting those phytonutrients that I talked about, and if your body can't communicate, if you may be able to transport, but if you can't communicate, you're going to have a problem. Most conventional docs, I don't have time to talk about it, most conventional docs don't know how to deal with the thyroid. The way they deal with thyroid disease, I could teach a monkey, as long as I knew sign language. My wife knows sign language, so I'll have her interpret for me to that monkey, and I'll get that monkey to treat hypothyroid. It's a lot more involved than that. So, anyway, that was not meant to be offensive in any way, but if you ever asked your wife really nicely for something and you saw that, I'm going to move on. All right, so let's pass the adrenal. That's the communication. You also need to make energy. How do you make energy? Your body has to make ATP. You have mitochondria that in your every cell of the body that make ATP or energy. You need the right foods, and you need to decrease the toxic load. If you have a problem with mitochondria and you can't make energy, what will the conventional doctor call it? Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, migraines. So, we want to make sure that your energy system is not off, and we're getting a talk about energy. Also, detoxification. Your liver has to detoxify. Everyone here on this panel can talk to you about how do you detoxify and get the chemicals out of your system. You also need a balanced psychological spiritual state, which we can go over later. And putting it all together, there is a triggering event. This is a very common triggering event. Just another common triggering event. Whenever you look at disease, like Crohn's disease, there's always something. You had an imbalance, and then something triggered it. I lost my job. I got in a car accident, right? I stubbed my toe. People are different. So we always want to find out what the triggering event was. So you got to think, what was the triggering event? What are the imbalances? And then you have to look at the genes. Or you have to look at patient individuality and lifestyle. Everyone's different except for identical twins. The big thing with functional medicine is everybody is genetically different. And you can have an identical twin, and one of them gets Alzheimer's and one of them doesn't. One of them gets diabetes, one of them doesn't. One gets cancer, one doesn't. What is that factor? What is that factor that's missing? The environment, right? The environment. What you eat, what you drink, your beliefs, your relationships, your state of mind. Exercise, sleep. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you sleeping at the right time? Are you hydrating yourself? That's it. No matter what condition you have, we will have some sort of a prescription for you. But it's not a drug. It's a lifestyle. How do we change your environment so that your genes will express themselves in the way we want to express themselves? Thank you, guys.
Hello, I'm Lynn Ryan. I've been with Dr. Elyaman's office for over a year. I visit with the nutritionist, Mike Steffen, and I am a very successful client because of the accountability and commitment that I've made to working with Dr. Elyaman's office in regard to my weight loss and my being a diabetic too. type 2 diabetes. My diabetes is under control now, and I'm doing really terrific. And due to Dr. Elyaman's office and all the support that I've received, I am feeling just terrific. The staff there always makes you feel welcome. They're always friendly, and success is very much a part of Dr. Elyaman's office.
My name is Jareen Panyer. I've been a patient at Absolute Health for over 5 years. Dr. Elyaman has been the best. He never just tries to give you a medication, he tries to find out what's wrong. And he looks at you when you speak to him. He listens, and he's got help now with Frank Dow and Jill, and they are marvelous. So he has expanded. When I came, there were only 4 girls who worked there. I think we have 24 now. So he has really expanded, and it's because he's so good. Everybody loves him. I think I'm his best person to love him, and he's just been wonderful to me.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Farr. I've been coming to see Dr. Elyaman for about 2 years. It was a really difficult time in my life. I was having a lot of problems with emotional problems and physical problems, and I was in a lot of pain. I didn't know what to do. I came into his office crying a lot of times. It was a really tough time. Dr. Elyaman was very patient with me, much more patient than I was with myself. He listened to me, which most doctors don't do. He was very good. We tried a lot of different doctors and methods of treatment and medicines, and he sent me to the right people to get help. I'm just really would recommend that anybody to see Dr. Elyaman. Wonderful. And he has started me on a lot of supplements, which has really helped. I am now free of all medicines and not taking any medicines, which is really great. And it's been a really great experience, and I'm just really thankful for Dr. E. Thank you.